Okay. I put on there, we're going to talk about gut health. This is just going to be like a high level overview and some of the stuff that Autumn talked about. I've listened to quite a few podcasts about gut health. And if you are someone that has some gut health symptoms, and we'll talk about that in just a second, I would highly recommend checking out some podcasts. Model Health Show, Shalene actually did a ton of research when she was creating her diet plan, 131, and she has a lot of really great podcasts about gut health because I think she also went through it like Autumn did. And Autumn probably talks about it more extensively in, on her podcast and stuff. I just haven't listened to them other than what she's put in the nutrition channel. But it's one of those things where we absolutely are part of whatever our atmosphere is, right? We are our own biome, we are our own ecosystem, and we are absolutely affected by how much we're even outside or inside, or what countries we've traveled to. The bacteria in your system can tell a story of your travel, can tell the story of how you've lived your life and things that have gone on. So it's one of those things to think about, as if you're chronically having an issue. And I kind of equate this to, if you have to pee a lot when you're jumping, that, while is common, is not normal. Okay, so it's like one of those things where it means your pelvic floor is not strong enough, and there's ways to adjust that, either surgically or through exercise. So it's one of those things you can affect, and it's the same thing with your gut health, right? So if you're chronically having diarrhea, chronically fatigued, chronically bloating, all those things, while they may seem like a normal thing, aren't normal, right? Maybe you've just dealt with them long enough. So it's one of those things to look into and that you can definitely affect, but it does take some research, some work, some working with your doctor, working with a naturopath, whoever you're comfortable with. But it takes the effort, but it can definitely be worth it because it does affect your overall system. So let's go into, I took a bunch of notes on this one, and we'll go into talking about kind of what she talked about. So she had what was called gut dysbiosis. And that's when you have an imbalance between your good and your bad bacterias. So you have this whole system of bacteria that is either growing because of the foods that aren't so great for you, or it's growing because of the foods that are good for you, and it's helping you to absorb your nutrients. It's helping you to have your system work the way it's supposed to work. Okay. So she mentioned some of the signs: digestive issues, abdominal pain, heartburn, bloating, diarrhea, food sensitivities, hard time losing weight, hard time gaining weight, fatigue, many more. Lots of things that can come from a gut health imbalance, this gut dysbiosis. And one of the things that she really focused on, because it affected her directly, was the fact that antibiotics. So I don't, and maybe you've heard that, like, some people talk about that you shouldn't just blanket take antibiotics. And I don't know how many people are familiar with that or what that means, but an antibiotic is going to go in and be like a destructor of all bacteria, whether it's good or bad. It's just going to take it out because it's taking out whatever infection is happening. And it is for bacterial infections. Okay. Antibiotics don't work on viruses. They work on bacterial infections. So when you're taking an antibiotic, it will just blow it up, right? We do now have some antibiotics that target certain areas, or like I know I used to get UTIs, and so they have one specific for a UTI, or they may have some things that are specific to specific illnesses. But in the past, we've been prescribed antibiotics often, and maybe prior to a test confirming a bacterial infection. Maybe it's like you go to the doctor and you just get started on it, right? Without knowing when the test comes back, is it truly bacterial or not bacterial? So, with that being said, and this isn't a note to say don't take antibiotics because you absolutely need to work with your doctor to realize that that can be a necessary thing and beneficial. It's more of a, make if you can keep yourself in good health through these other things, and if you do have to go on the antibiotic, then maybe you can kind of help yourself progress through that. Adding in some probiotics and prebiotics and making sure that your nutrition is extra good during that time so that you can help get those things started back up again. So that's one cause of causing some dysbiosis. And then the second thing is the SAD diet. So that's the standard American diet. I know it's a great name for it, right? Because most of our diet is pretty sad. Uh, so some of the stats, which I thought were fascinating, she said in a year on the SAD, the standard American diet, we consume 24 pounds of artificial sweeteners. I'm like, that was mind blowing to me. I'm like, that's a lot of artificial sweeteners. And that does not help our biome, our gut health in any way. She also mentioned 23 pounds of pizza, which I'm not opposed to. I'm still okay with that one. I don't think that should have made the list as a bad thing. And then 29 pounds of French fries, which was a lot, and then 31 pounds of cheese in a year. So that's a lot of stuff. And so then, through these things, whatever foods we're eating, we are feeding either good or bad bacteria, right? You're helping to continue it on. And she also mentioned that there are 300 to over 1,000 species of bacteria at any given time in our bodies. So that also goes back to the whole biome idea that if you go outside more, you might have a different set of bacteria that you've been exposed to in a certain region. Like if you went hiking in the Himalayan mountains, you're going to get access to some bacteria that you wouldn't get access if you were hiking in Oregon or whatever, right? So part of that's why there's some diversity in these species and how we have different things in our body. So the good bugs really help us to digest what we're doing, help get things ready so we can absorb the nutrients we need from the food. They're like this little helper in our body to get things going. And one of the doctors she mentions is Dr. Rob Knight. And he basically is of the opinion that you can have a good gut health by focusing on having 30 different varieties of plants in a week. So if you think about that, like think about the vegetables you eat, the fruit you eat, and how many different fruits and vegetables do you think you have in a week? I don't even know. I'm going to have to add it up. But I know when we played like fruit or veggie bingo, there wasn't even 30 on there, and I wouldn't have been able to mark them all off in a week. So it's something to think about, diversifying your fruit and vegetables so that you are constantly adding in different nutrients or different forms of nutrition and really spreading out those plant foods. He feels like that really helps our gut health so that you're feeding the good bacteria in a good way. Okay, there was something. Oh, I remember this one was really cool too. So I don't know if you've heard that our digestive system is referred to as our second brain. So that's a big deal. Like it definitely it supports 80% of our immune system. And I don't think a lot of people credit it enough. The food we're putting in absolutely is a direct result on our health. And I think we kind of bypass it often and think, oh, I'll get to that later. I'll do that later. But it is 80% of our immune system is happening in our digestive tract. So it's really important to be feeding that good bacteria. The other thing I didn't know, 90% of our serotonin is created in our digestive tract. So serotonin is that feel good hormone and helps us have that positive attitude, feel great about things. So if the digestive tract is off, then maybe you're not getting to create as much serotonin. I don't know. I'd love to, after she said that, that makes me want to go read some stuff about that to see how that directly affects our moods and how we're feeling about things. So I think that's all of my diversity. Yeah. So basically, you're really just working toward getting those good foods in. And I hate to use the word good and bad because I usually stay away from that, but we're looking to feed the bacteria that's beneficial to us, right? So diverse plants, complex carbs, making sure that we're giving our bacteria the nutrition it needs to keep functioning to help us get the nutrition in the end. So does anybody have any experience with gut health or things they want to talk about with it?
I know that Shakeology has the probiotics in it to help with the gut
Pre
health.
and pro. Yep, pre and pro. So it is definitely, and that's why you should drink it within 30 minutes of making it, because that's when you get the most benefit of the pre and probiotics.
Do you think it matters the time of day in which you drink it?
No,
Because
I
I
don't.
bounce all over the day with it. Some days I'll have it in the morning, other days I'll have it in the afternoon, sometimes I'll have it in the evening.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I've never heard anybody talk about that, just about, having it within that time so it's activated. But I don't think the time of day is, as critical.
What's the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic?
I believe, and this is going to be my guess, maybe Beverly has better answer, but I believe a pre is like, it's like a food to get things ready, and maybe a probiotic is the actual bacteria, but a pre is like feeding the bacteria, but I'm not totally sure on that.
Okay.
How does apple cider vinegar play into this?
That's a great question. I have not seen a lot of conclusive study on apple cider vinegar. I know it's really popular, but I have not read any studies that say it changes things. I mean, the claim, right, is that it is good for gut health, and I don't know if that's just the fermenting idea and having the vinegar there, but I don't know exactly what it does. But that's a good, I will write these down because these are good questions to answer for next time. Okay, so pre and probiotic.
I think the idea behind apple cider vinegar is the same thing as with fermented foods. It's specifically apple cider vinegar that has the mother in it. It like says mother.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has to do with just fermented foods aiding in the positive gut bacteria. I actually have experience in it, but I have experience with, I was raised on fast food and fast meals, and I ate junk for breakfast the majority of my childhood. And I had dessert after every dinner, pretty much. Fast food all the time, soda. I didn't drink a whole lot of water. And I suffered from clinical depression, was medicated heavily the majority of my life. And due to like changes that I made, and it wasn't because I made the changes because I wanted to get healthy. I didn't want to be a burden on my family. I didn't want to have the future that I saw from my father and my mother and stuff. So I made changes, and as I changed, I noticed that I became like the exercise helped me to get that positive feeling. But then I started to notice that the less junk I ate and the more I would have Shako, the more positive my mind would stay throughout most of the days. And I had a physician ask me why I was on antidepressants, and I said because I was told I needed to be on them for the rest of my life, because that's what I was told. And I was able to come off of those, but it was a very hard, painful journey actually to come off of them. And it's definitely one of those things where you really have to have the guidance of a physician to do. But yeah, ever since I've been off of them, I can drastically notice a difference. Like if I have too much anything processed or alcohol, I can feel my mind begin to shift and me begin to like almost like clam up and crawl inside myself, basically. Like I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to do anything. So I have to be I'm very aware of like when I put certain things in my body, the mental and emotional effect that it has on me. And it can take, you know, a day or two. And I really truly believe that Shakeology makes that transition go faster for me, so that I'm not in that space for very long. But yeah, so that's my experience with gut health. I truly strongly believe that it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that the serotonin is in your gut and that I did not feed that serotonin.
Right.
well.
Totally. Now it makes me want to read it even more. Cause I mean, right. Like you think about how many people are just feeling so blah, and maybe their body's just not creating the right things because it doesn't have the nutrition to feed that good bacteria.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I have clients that have said that Shakeology makes the difference too.
Wow.
Like
yeah.
their moods change. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't
Beverly,
been-
thanks
I
for
haven't been off
thanks
it
for
long.
sharing all of that.
Yeah.
That's
I
really
too.
Of course.
yeah. Makes me want to research it as well because that's very interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
It really is. And there's been a lot of people who have kids dealing with different autism spectrum things, and food has made a big difference in certain types. And, it just depends on who's willing to talk about it and what studies they've done. But it makes you wonder, like, is our sad diet, have we kind of created some of this from it? And not reinforcing real food and good nutrition. And
My younger son dealt with that. I mean, he's on the spectrum, so he's on the spectrum, and yeah, it definitely played a role in everything, like in his behavior and in his like sugar was a huge thing, dairy, gluten. But his gut was just a hot mess. It was just really, and looking back, like not knowing what I was doing when he was an infant and a toddler and everything, it's like, wow, if I could really do like the whole mom guilt thing, I could beat myself up left and right because I made really poor choices but I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and I can't beat myself up over it. All I can do is just be grateful that I dove into researching so heavily and pushed past the social norms and the naysayers and the ugly looks and all the stuff that I got because he's in it. I mean, most people would not even be able to tell he's on the spectrum. So,
right. Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome. All right. Does anybody have any other gut health talk? This is one we can go in different expanses for days.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I missed who you were talking about when you were referring to she. Who is she?
Oh, Autumn. So Autumn Calabrese will do videos in the Nutrition Plus portion of BOD. So that's a membership program that we have. And then so sometimes, there's videos as part of Ultimate Portion Fix. And then these are additional videos that kind of dive into different subject matters. each month to get into a little more detail. Like 1 month they talked about water in detail. And this, I was just taking some of the information she gave from this video she did a few months back.
Jamie, you have
Okay.
that. You have that free for the first month. So I'll show you where to find it.
Oh, okay,
There's
great.
a lot of really, really interesting things in there for sure. And new recipes. So
I have another question. Is cheese something that we should not be consuming a lot of?
you know, I thought it was interesting she added that to the list, but I also didn't like pizza being on the list. But you know, cheese is one of those things that dairy can be an inflammatory for a lot of people. There's a lot of studies that depending on your origin in the world, you may not have been exposed to dairy early enough in your ancestry and you're just automatically kind of lactose intolerant. So it's one of those things where it might be mild, where it's not enough to really notice. And then there's, instances where you might have lots of irritable bowel type syndrome type stuff, irritation happening, inflammation happening. So we do only get the little blue container a day, and that's designated for cheese and other healthy fats like avocado and hummus and things like that. So you wouldn't be having a lot. And if you have ever had any kind of like whey protein, if that makes you bloated, that can be a sign that dairy is an issue. So you just kind of have to see how you feel. If you're off it and on it, and see if there's a difference. I grew up in Wisconsin, so it's a mandatory that you eat cheese.
That's right.
And I don't notice a difference because I will go off it from time to time, but I don't notice a difference. But you really just have to figure out for your own body how you feel on and off it.
Speaking of cheese, Tina, I've been eating a lot of ricotta.
Oh, ricotta, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love ricotta.
Yeah.
Could that be a reason that I'm not losing weight?
It could be. It might be a higher calorie protein. If you're having it, it would be one of those things where maybe you only have it a couple times a week and see if that makes a difference versus every day, or,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Because so when you're looking at the food lists, she's Autumn, when she created like a food list for 21 Day Fix, or Alana's food list, they're put at the top if they're the most nutritional, best choice because of
Right.
the amount of fiber, because of what, nutrients, all of that information, they're on the top of the list. So cheeses tend to be toward the bottom of any of the lists. And that's partly out of how people react to it. But like a ricotta would be considered a protein, but it may not be, depending on how your body's reacting to it, it may not be a great protein for you, or a protein you only want to have once a week or twice a week, and see how it affects you.
Oh,
Has
I have another question.
go ahead.
I'm full of questions. This is all new to me.
That's great.
Um,
all right.
okay, so can you tell me what different reasons for water retention are?
Water retention is inflammation, essentially, right? So when you start a weightlifting program, your muscles are going to retain water because they're inflamed, because they're working and being torn and having a hard time. You can have inflammation from different foods. So maybe cauliflower is a food that doesn't agree with you, so you retain water from it. It's like your body retains water to help figure out whatever it's going to do next. I'm trying to think of what else. Too much sodium would be a water retention.
Okay, yeah, because if I sit for long periods of time, I'll retain water. I retain water really bad during the summer when it's hot.
Yeah.
Not so much during the winter. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on exactly with that.
And that could be a sign of a medical issue too. It's definitely something, if you're noticing it a lot, then you might want to get that checked out. Just because, sitting like I know my ankles will swell when it's hot, especially if I've been like, even if I'm walking, sometimes toward the end of a walk, if I've gone a long ways, I'll have my ankles will be a little bit bigger. It's kind of like when, when I was pregnant, my ankles would swell up kind of a thing. But like, so you just have to, I would definitely talk about it with your doctor though, too, because that can be signs of other things going on, hypertension type stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I actually already saw my doctor about it, asking to be put on a water pill, and she doesn't want to give me one because she said it's really bad for your liver.
Oh, okay. And did she have recommendations for how to move forward? Like, did she want you like to move more through your day and so that you're up more?
Well, getting my weight off
Mhm.
was a big, pretty much the solution, more or less, is
Well,
what she told me.
yeah, we can work on all that, right? That's what we're all working on. Perfect.
I know an old tip that, so my stepmom was a travel director for a company that she was on her feet for hours when she would do these travel conventions and stuff and take people around to these places and such. And so she would retain water really bad in her ankles and in her calves. And so at the end of the day, she would, just so that she could go to sleep at night because it was like so much water, she would lay with her feet up like against the wall so
Mhm.
that, your body like drains back down. And I know like currently the new program 9-week control freak, they have the controlled stretches at the end of the evening. And she has you do that in a few of the different programs, but not for the length of time that it may take for somebody who's dealing with necessarily water retention there to flush it back into your system. But that might be helpful too, just to get things back draining.
Yeah.
It's also good for lower back pain to do that, to sit with your legs. It's like if my lower back is killing me, I'll just do that randomly, and it feels really good because it just relieves all of the pressure off of your lower back.
That happy baby.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes my lower back always
one.
feel good.
Love that. Has anybody in this group done a food sensitivity test?
I have.
Beverly.
Yeah, I have. And, it's funny because with all the stuff I've read, it's like I know Autumn would like endorse one, but it's really whatever you're eating right now. I think that it's an indicator of. And so like, for instance, like I know eggs make me feel nauseous. So I haven't had them in 2 years, but like, I wonder what a food sensitivity test would say because I haven't had them in my diet. So it may not flag it. And I think there's, been some tests that are fairly inaccurate, but I think they're getting better. I don't know. What's your experience, Beverly?
So both my younger son and I have both taken a test, and it was actually through a doctor. And I mean, I know that there's a lot of them out there. This one, when they did the blood draw and then they sent it off to this lab, the lab actually tested against food, spices, like everything, also like pollens and danders and all sorts of stuff. But they test specifically with the foods multiple days. Like, so like they see if it affects you after multiple days instead of just one time. But yeah, I mean, so my son at that time, when he had his, for instance, he showed up as sensitive to dairy, every single type, which there's like 8 or 9 types. I can't remember exactly, but one of them is goat. That was the only one that he was not allergic to milk wise. But because he had been off of milk for over a year at that point, and he still showed sensitivity to it, the doctor was like, don't ever eat any dairy ever again, because it's not going to work for you. And the same thing with gluten and so, I mean, it will show, like, so for me, it showed that oats were something I was slightly sensitive to. At that point in time, I had gone years of just pretty much having oatmeal for most of my breakfast. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Coffee was a big one. My story with coffee, I was drinking like almost 2 pots of coffee a day for a couple of years. I had worked myself up to that, and I had overdone it. But I actually physically felt a difference when I drank coffee too, after removing it and putting it back in. So like, it gives you an idea, but then the true test is when you eliminate it, like with an elimination diet, and then you put it back in. And it depends upon the food as to how long it really needs to be eliminated before it's really out of your system. Gluten it's hands down the one that hangs on the longest, which is 6 months.
Oh.
So, but everything else is pretty much 3 weeks to 4 weeks, and it's gone. Some, it's even shorter. Their life is even shorter in your body. So, but yeah, so like if you're looking at an elimination diet, that's kind of, that might give you a better idea if there's something that you like, no, okay, yeah, this could possibly be it.
And blood tests are going to be your best bet of the testing pieces. Like,
Yes.
I know they have all the swab things. Those are not nearly as accurate as a blood test.
Right.
I want to ask a question about coffee. Since you brought coffee up, oh, my video is off. Hold on, let me turn it back on. So I'm finding that coffee actually makes me really tired. Do you know anything about that?
I don't. I like coffee will be pried from my cold dead hands, but I don't know anything. I don't know anything about that. You know, I'll add that to my list though to look up, because I don't have any background. I mean, it's funny because I do get more tired after I have an afternoon coffee than if I were to just have water or Energize or something else in the afternoon. And do you have anything in your coffee? Like, do you have sugar in it?
Well, I was using just, regular creamer. But now that I'm making this transition to finding alternatives in my diet and making all these changes, I found a almond milk creamer that I like a lot. That only has 2 grams of sugar in it. And I don't drink a lot of coffee. I drink maybe a cup to 2 cups max in the morning. But I'm finding but I have noticed if I drink it during the day, I mean, I like crash. It makes me really tired.
Yeah.
So it's like the caffeine is like having like an adverse reaction or something in my body. It's weird.
That can happen if you've had too much caffeine. You get the opposite effect. If you have too much, it makes you tired, which seems completely like it doesn't even make sense. But I do know that that is the case. If you have too much caffeine, like it will make you tired. You will take a nap. The alternative is to take a nap and then try something else.
Or
yeah. Or I know that I've done this. This is like kind of, if it's just like super crazy, this is how you know it's like really nuts. I'll drink like pre-workout and I'll lay down for like 15 minutes and then I'll wake up and I'll be like ready to go. But that's like an extreme case of like, I just need to get my life together.
And I wonder too, if it's an afternoon case, because I know for me, like I had coffee this afternoon and I'm more thirsty. And I also tend to avoid drinking water, not on purpose, like just in the habits of my day. I don't have enough water with lunch and then into the afternoon. So by the time I'm having my coffee, I'm probably dehydrated. So I wonder if you kind of combine those two things, right? Like make sure you're also having a full glass of water at some point around there. I mean, it's like caffeine is, some people call it a diuretic. It's not necessarily, it's like it changes the hormone that tells your body to hold on to water. So it's now when you've had the caffeine, your body's like, oh, I don't need to hold on to any of this water you're drinking. And so you do end up peeing more when you have coffee, but it's not necessarily that it's like dehydrating you, if that makes sense. So, it might be something to try too, to see if that's the cause. Cause I definitely feel tired if I have not had enough water in the day.
Yeah, your brain's not functioning if it's not like fully lubricated with enough water. I mean, I always tell my friends that hydration is the key to success. I am like almost aggressively always drinking water. I'm like continually around our house. You can hear me asking my husband, "Have you seen my water bottle?" All the time. Like that is literally just on a loop. I did it earlier tonight. I'm like, "Have you seen my water?"
You need like a t-shirt.
Basically, yeah. Have you seen my water? Like that is a very common question I ask on a daily basis. So.
I love it. But Jamie, I have it on my list. So I'm going to work on that for next week.
Okay.
Another thing that you could try, I don't know if you've ever had not green tea, matcha. Matcha tea, because so matcha is different from other from like coffee and other teas, because the way that it's the way that the caffeine hits you, it doesn't like spike the energy, it doesn't spike. I'm like trying to come up with what it was. It doesn't spike it's a gradual energy. Like it builds slowly and then it sustains. Whereas like sodas and coffees and most teas, they kind of do this with your energy and then they have you drop off. Whereas the matcha, it's a slower, and then it keeps you there and then it gradually dips down. So I know I dealt with adrenal chronic fatigue, and once I started to be able to put some bits of caffeine back into my life again, that was one of the first ones, and that my body could even handle and that they recommended. And it's different. It doesn't like, give you that, oh, let's go, I mean, but it definitely parts the brain fog a little bit. So that might be something also to try if you like tea. I'm not a big tea drinker, to be quite honest. It was like, really, I mean, give me my coffee back, but I had to get over it for myself. But yeah, so that might be something you could try.
Good. All right.
Okay. Another question.
Yeah.
Should you, so I'm planning on doing my workouts in the morning, prior to going to work, because I have a very physically demanding job and I'm just exhausted at the end of the day. It's just not, I'm not going to exercise at night. So anyway, should I be eating breakfast before or after exercising?
Good question.
So yeah, this really depends on you. There is no study that shows that fasted exercise is better than not fasted than fueled exercise, but it really depends on how you feel. I know if I have food, even if it's a small amount before my workouts are better than if I don't. Some people thrive on not having anything in their stomach and then working out, and their workouts are still just as intense. So the goal is that you feel good in your workout, and that could be like, a small piece of fruit or, something really simple workout, and then actually have your, the rest of your breakfast after. Or if you have enough time before, you can have that breakfast. You probably want at least 30 minutes to let things get down there, before you go into a workout. So you're not feeling like, I know if I eat too close, then I start getting like little irps and, little indigestion, especially on the burpees and such. But, so it really depends on you. Sometime in that morning, have your food, right? Because that'll help fuel you then as you get to work. And, if you have your carbs early and through your work period, that's going to be more energy for your intensive day. And then save those, proteins and veggies for later at night, because you're not necessarily using all that fuel at that time, right? So you want it during those more intense times during your day. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Because I was noticing with the clean week, it's, suggesting, breakfast, then your protein shake, lunch, snack, and dinner for my weight group. So that's, I'm kind of going to go by that chart but I just wasn't sure if I should be eating breakfast, before or after a workout.
Yeah, that's definitely up to you. If you notice you feel better in a workout because you had some food, and it doesn't have to be the full amount right away. That's also dependent, on how much time you have and how you feel.
And it could also depend on if you normally eat in the morning and what time you're working out. So like when I did 80-day obsession over the summer, if I was working out in the morning, I would have had to get up at some egregious hour that I was not going to do. And I was just going to set myself up for failure. So what I have found that I can wake up, I'll drink water, I'll drink my Energize, and then I'll work out because I just wasn't hungry before I worked out. And then afterwards, I would then be able to drink my Recover and eat, and I was fine. So it really depends if you're used to eat, because I'm not a big breakfast person, and I don't really want to eat first thing in the morning when I wake up. But if you're used to eating when you get up, then go for it. But if you find that when you're working out and you've already eaten, that you don't feel that great, and you will know. Like you will know. You don't have to do anything too rigorous to figure it out that this is not for you. But I mean, just play around with it. But I would say that if you're incorporating a workout first thing in the morning before you go to work, try and stick it into your routine so it doesn't seem too like onerous or like, oh, like this isn't fun. I mean, so play around with it.
Yeah, and in the first couple weeks too, you're going to have a workout in your normal work schedule. And in that first 2 weeks, you're probably going to be a little more tired. But that also, your body adapts. And then you're going to start having more energy in your day because the workout got done. So I don't want you to feel too in this beginning stage that like this is how it's going to be for good. It really, your body does have to adapt to things, and then it's like, oh, okay, we did our workout, let's go to work, and and it has more energy and it's ready to go. But it can be a little bit tiresome in that first week to 2 weeks.
I haven't exercised in years, so I'm probably going to feel like I'm dying by the end of next week.
Just go to bed early and drink lots of water. All right. Do we have any more questions?
When I did,
Sorry.
oh. No, I was just going to say, I was going to tag on Marianne's statement about 80-day obsession. So when I did 80-day obsession, I did the time nutrition, but I had a teaspoon of peanut butter smeared on a rice cake, and I would chug that down with my Energize, and then I would go push play. And just that little bit gave me a little bit of extra energy. And it didn't seem to upset my stomach, whereas I had egg cups for the first 2 weeks, and that was horrible. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Yum, egg burps.
Yeah.
I love the rice cake idea, Lily. That's great. I might have to give that a whirl because I'm just shooting Energize straight on an empty stomach with some water.
That's some real stuff there.
You just got to start the day. You just got to dive right in, Deanna,
You
That's what I do.
You gotta do it.
There you go.
Listen to me. I have like steel cut oats and blueberries and sausage, and then I feel energized, and then I work out at like 9:30. So
Yeah. No, it's 5 o'clock over here.
Oh,
Water and Energized for me usually.
yeah.
I've gone back and forth. Actually, when I first started, I would almost pass out if I hadn't eaten. So I had to eat before. When I started, I was doing insanity. After I went from 10-minute trainers to insanity. I was literally insane. And I had no business in doing that program when I did it. But yeah, so I had to eat something, and just to give myself energy to be able to do it. And then thankfully I was introduced to Shakeology because it gave me something that I could have, and I didn't have to wait, because there was like this magical window at that point. Like when I had like a meal, which was oats and stuff, then if I went past an hour and a half, then I was in trouble. Then I wouldn't make it through the workout because I wouldn't have enough energy. So I had to do it between like 45 minutes and that hour and a half. I had to get my workout started in that window, or it was the end of the world for me. It was like I wasn't going to get through the workout. But yeah, so Shakeology was great because I only had to wait like 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, I can do it. But then eventually my body just got to the point where it's like, yeah, water is fine. Let's just do water and energize and then go. So yeah, you just gotta and you'll know because you'll feel like you just can't push through the workout. And again, the first couple weeks, it's really not a great judgment of how your body's going to handle it. You're going to have to give yourself some time to adjust and get used to just doing and going. But yeah, after that, then you'll be able to start to tell like, okay, no, I can't eat this or I need to eat something.
I even have days now that I get up and I'm starving. And it's like, there's no way that I can work out. I have to eat something, even just eat a banana to work out.
Yeah.
Has anyone done the Shailene Extreme workouts?
Mm-hmm.
I just started it and I'm liking them so far. How did you do with it?
I did good. I did it like, I think it was like 3 years ago I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you find it? Did you like it?
Oh yeah. Yep. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you follow her diet too, her food book, her menus?
No, I didn't do any of those.
Okay.
I just followed the containers off the food list. I'm just a food list.
Oh, so you did the 21-day extreme food list? Okay.
Yeah, just the containers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did the food the way that she did, but that was because we didn't have 21-day fix back then. I did it like when that program released.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I would say that the 21-day fix thing is way easier than what Shailene has you do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably use some of the recipes and stuff, but I feel like, yeah, it's way easier to go, with the 21-day fix or the UPF, either UPF or 2B mindset. It's just way more simplified, and gives you a lot more freedom.
Okay.
So I feel like otherwise it was really kind of more restrictive.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you got to do what works for you though, too.
Yeah.
If it looks amazing and you're like, oh my gosh, this is my jam, then do it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And it's a great time to try it out right now while you're doing the workouts and see how you feel about it.
Yeah. I told Dina today that I bought new weights. I bought the adjustable dumbbells. I'm so excited. I can't wait to use them tomorrow.
We should see a selfie tomorrow with some
Yeah.
iron,
Yeah,
right?
okay, all right. I'll have to do that.
So,
All
so
right.
one of my tricks is I always keep a bottle of Tums downstairs because I could literally eat the same thing every single day. And one day I feel good when I work out, and one day I get huge, like major indigestion. So I just keep it down there. And if I start feeling like crap, I take a couple and it helps pretty quickly. So that's my secret.
Okay.
Probably not the best thing to do, but it works for me.
If it works, do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we have any more questions on gut health? Otherwise, I'll move to one more thing before we're done at 6 here, because I had my mind blown by this. But I don't want to miss any questions. We good? Okay. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. Okay. So it was in one of the nutrition groups. I think it was like the Portion Fix community. And I did not hear about any of this in any of my things. So maybe you guys already know this, but the FDA does not require manufacturers to report calories on insoluble fiber. So if we do a little math on these wraps, right? Because we've been talking about so many wraps.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all kind of carb balance, protein, right? They're meant to have high fiber, and it's probably insoluble fiber. So if you do the math, the calories would be roughly like 120 or 130. but it's 70 because they're deducting the dietary fiber calories out.
Oh, wow, interesting.
So it is kind of fascinating. Now, I mean, we aren't calorie counting with our programs, but like if you were looking at the calories, you might think maybe I could have 2 of those, but really one is a yellow because of the size. So that's why Autumn talks about, like in the food list, it usually will talk about a size of a tortilla, and this is why. But I was just blown away by the fact that like they don't have to count insoluble fiber. Now, insoluble fiber is close to 0 in calories. Soluble fiber is roughly 2 calories. So it is different than being a regular carb. But I just never thought I had to do all the math really to add up the calories. And I just thought it was really interesting.
How did you get that math?
So your fat, the 3.5 is times 9. The total carb 18 would be times 4, and protein is times 4. So, but then they take that 15 grams of dietary fiber, or on this other one, the 12 grams of dietary fiber, take that times 4 and deduct it. And then that's how they're getting, or whatever their insoluble fiber content amount is, then they're deducting it from the calories.
Mm.
So I just thought it was really interesting because I did not realize that this little thing was here. And I kind of, I mean, I get it. Like, and now it makes so much more sense, this whole net carb thing with keto, because I never quite really got how that worked. And now I totally make sense why they deduct some carbs out of the carbs.
Yeah, because the dietary fiber is supposed to, so on the 70 ones on the left-hand side, the 15 grams from the 18 grams of carb, that means that there's 3 grams between the two, and that's the net carbs because your body will like
Right.
produce itself of the other, 15. So
Right. So
Yeah,
insoluble fiber just means your body digests nothing from it. It literally is a thing that goes through your system and you don't retain any energy from it, right? You don't convert it into anything. You don't retain energy from it. It just goes through your system. Soluble fiber is considered 2 calories per gram because your body does use it to feed some bacteria toward the end. So it does create some energy. So it does have some calories, just not as much.
Those have a ton. I'm
Which-
sorry, I was just gonna say that those have a lot of sodium in it. Is there
They do.
is there a wrap that you suggest that is good?
Honestly, Lily is our wrap expert because I don't eat wraps in general. But
I guess wraps or bread, wraps and bread. Like, does anybody have any suggestions?
Well, I think Lily, you had talked about the flat out ones, and those seem to be good.
Yeah, the flat out have a fiber one that had quite a bit of fiber that we looked at. Was that last week, I think? And those are good. They're usually square or oval shaped, and they're they seem to have a lot of fiber for the amount of carbs that you have, and they're less carbs. So, but the whole wheat one where you can get a lot of fiber is probably the best option.
Yeah, and I would just look at the ingredients. If you have ingredients that you can't pronounce or that, you know what I mean, are like a sugar or things like that, you just want to make sure that they're the best ingredients you can find too.
Mm.
for bread, I like Dave's Killer Bread. That's probably like my go-to. And
Yeah,
they
that's
do
best
either a
too.
thin sliced or a regular one. Although I did find out I was eating the 21 seeds, it had the green label, and I was like, this is amazing. And then I think a few weeks ago you had drawn my attention to the red label one because of the sugar count. And then I checked the sugar count on the green label, and I was like, I almost fell over. I was like, this is ridiculous, because I had never paid attention to it because it was like good seeds. I'm like, fantastic. Anyways, but yeah, Dave's Killer Bread is probably like my favorite go-to bread.
Yeah. And Ezekiel Bread is one that's on the list, and that's a really good one. It's in the freezer section of any grocery store, pretty much anywhere.
That was the
Yeah, 'cause
one that
I've always eaten white bread. I know it's terrible. So now, and I've tried eating whole grain bread
Yeah,
recently,
so
which I like.
yeah, make sure you watch your labels, because what you want, like it can say whole grain, but that doesn't, like, you want to make sure the ingredients actually say whole grain wheat, and you want to make sure that the dietary fiber is higher. So you want at least 1 gram of dietary fiber to 10 grams of carbs. So you want that ratio to be higher than that 1 to 10. Because it's funny, because I made like a Euro dinner last week, and my husband had bought pitas, and they were just white bread pitas, but it actually had like 4 grams of dietary fiber to 30 grams of carbs. So it was an FFC, but it was still like a white bread pita. So, you just have to kind of look at the labels, because I've seen some wheat breads that are less fiber than white breads. You just kind of, see, and then you kind of test a few out and see what you can live with.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on white bread, like Wonder Bread raised over here. And when I started looking for an alternative, because I can totally jam out on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or a sandwich in general. I yet to meet a sandwich I don't like. And so I found that Dave's Killer Bread was a really nice way to like switch into something that was going to be a better alternative, and just was going to be a cleaner version of something that I enjoy. And I think that made all the difference. Ezekiel Bread I've tried, and I have to be honest, it was a little like...
It's a little like bark.
Yeah, it really was. And I was like, this is not so good. But Dave's Killer Bread, it's like bread, like you get it in the bread aisle. It's with the other bread friends. And so that's always really nice.
It's with his bread friends.
Bread friends.
Ezekiel, I don't know which ones you've tried, but like the Ezekiel, there's a couple of them that are better than others. I can't even remember, because it's been a hot minute since I've had it, since it's gluten. So I'm like, I can't remember which ones, but I liked it for toast. Like it had more flavor to me than a wheat bread would. And so like when I was making toast and having toast, that's what I would really like Ezekiel bread, because it had all the different grains. It had more flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know about it for a sandwich.
No,
That'd be a lot.
It is a lot.
That'd be a lot going on there.
There's a lot. Yeah, it takes away from the sandwich. Just like steals the show, and not in a good way.
I feel like you're our sandwich expert.
I'm Italian, so I was raised on like meats, cheeses, sandwiches, pastas. Yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, I don't want to keep you guys on here too long. Meal prep class is Sunday. We are making breakfast banana muffins, turkey meatballs in the slow cooker, and macaroni and cheese with chicken and broccoli. So you can join in there. I will put the recording in all of our groups if you can't make it. And so you'll have the recipes in the recording if you want to cook with us. Not live, but we're pretty fun live. And it's a nice way to just get it all done. I am amazed at how much how much food we have at the end, and it really doesn't take that long. So it's kind of nice. And if there's any...
Don't forget to wear your camo tomorrow.
Yeah, and camo tomorrow. So let's see that I even got some new pants. You'll like them, Lily. They're pink camo and blue.
Oh,
like
you're not wearing your colorful koala tomorrow?
Well, I do have 2 camos in that one too, but yeah, I bought these new ones from Old Navy, so we'll see how those go. They were at $12. I couldn't resist. I have a problem.
I saw those. Oh, I almost got those.
We could have been twinning tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Like, what was it? The first time Lily and I had on the same pants. The pink leopard ones.
Oh,
The
nice.
Zaya ones,
Yeah.
yeah. Zaya ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then time for you guys working out.
Oh, like Lily has a 6 a.m. I think Pacific.
Yeah, 6 a.m. Pacific is when I do my Zoom. And then 7 on the weekends. And then Deanna, you were doing one at 9.
9:15, but nobody logs in but Jen once in a while, so it's not on the list anymore. Because I'm a
And then I thought,
buddy.
Then we have
I
a
thought
6:30. We have a 6:30 a.m. as well.
And that's
Which
Eastern
is
Central Standard.
That's Eastern time,
Oh,
right?
Eastern, yeah. Because it's 5:30 Central, which is why I never see you guys. Well, I see Jess.
I know we miss
stays
you.
Jess stays on. So I see
Yeah,
her.
we're usually gone by then.
Yeah. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, those tie-dye pants that Kim shared from Shaun T. It's like, oh my gosh, I want them
God,
so bad.
they're
Look
so
awesome.
expensive though. Did you guys see the price on those?
No, what
But
were
they're
they?
not as expensive as like
Oh,
Hey Dear or Zaya.
no, but I don't buy those either.
I'm telling you,
cheap.
you gotta watch
it's
the
so
sale.
hard.
Watch the
I
sale.
know.
I don't think I've paid full price for any of my K deer. And I've had them literally, I've had one pair since I went to New Orleans for Summit, which was like what, 4 years ago? And they're still just
Mhm.
good. So, I mean, 4 years of wearing them all the time. That's pretty good.
That is.
And I put them in the dryer. So. All right, you guys, I'll put the recording in there. So tomorrow's camo and then meal prep class on Sunday. And any suggestions on topics you want to talk about, always feel free to either tell your coach or put it in the group. We're happy to discuss. And I'm going to look up these things before next week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you later.
Awesome.
Did
Thank
you-
you.
Oh, I got a picture.
I'll take a
Yeah.
picture.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
gotta get a picture.
Somebody's
Picture.
got to keep me in line.
time.
All right, ready?
Uh-huh.
Very good.
Okay.
You got it.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.